Are you listening?
Hey everyone, it's Bryant with the Nerf Report. This past week, Google Stadia held another Stadia Connect, in which they announced brand new video games and features coming to the service. But one of the shining stars from this week's Connect was a game called Embr, a firefighting simulator with a catch. Instead of being a standard firefighter, you are an Embr first responder in a gig economy. And to talk with us about Embr today, we are joined with Howard Tsao, the team lead of Muse Games. Howard, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. Now, I know I kind of did a little bit of an intro, but did I miss anything? How would you describe Embr?
That sums it up pretty well. It's it's a pretty frantic, firefighting game where we, make it into a satire about just the whole venture capitalism, privatization, and VCs backing more and more. I wouldn't say extreme, but the envelope pushing services, especially in the gig economy. So like Embr is such where in a world where private funding for public services and public firefighting has essentially run dry. You have these gig economy services coming in to take their places, and what happens when unprofessionals go in and this is what happens. So the game has single player. It also has up to 4 players co-op. With people who play on Stadia and play on Steam during early access, there's also crossplay if that's a thing. So yeah.
That's awesome. So you kind of hinted at it, like single player and multiplayer. I mean, in your opinion, which is the best way to game? Is it multiplayer is better than single player?
I think multiplayer definitely adds this, team dynamic. It adds a little bit more chaos, where people can tactically plan rescues or just, they can really just do whatever, and they troll each other if they want. I think multiplayer definitely adds a dynamic layer to gameplay, that it doesn't really happen in single player. So I think I could hopefully, friends can jump in and have a lot of fun, just, have a laugh and, communicate, and run off to do different things. There's also, people can equip different loadouts and different tools. So there is some degree of role specialization. So you could be someone who's outside the building, just primarily, catching people with trampolines or, things like that. People can actually play different roles in firefighting. It's obviously not like real, like completely realistic firefighting sim, right? But in not being a total realistic, there is a kind of a more arcadey feel. Hopefully it's a little bit faster pace and a little bit more actiony. Single player is also obviously playable. It has this its thing. It's kind of more of an individual challenge to try to beat the levels, earn all the flames or the stars. So it's a different vibe though.
Yeah, I noticed in some of the Let's Plays out there, there's definitely like different classes of firefighters and different tools. But with it being in early access, is there going to be, do you have an idea of how many levels are going to be available at launch, or what are you guys looking at?
Yeah, so early access will start with 12. Okay. And that's not including the various game modes, which will allow you to replay some of these physical levels, but in pretty much completely different ways. But during early access, we aim to increase the level content and introduce these series of levels in more of a mini campaign structure. So we are planning to roll those out in basically double to triple the content that we have now. That's our plan.
So I noticed at the end of each job, there's also the rating and the money. I assume there's upgrades you can buy or costume variants that you can buy with that money?
Yeah. So in the demo that's on Steam now, we actually unlocked quite a few just for people to try. And it helped us, for people to give feedback and helps us test. But at the start, you'll have your trusted hose, you'll have a fire axe, you have your Embr finder, and you'll get a ladder once you finish tutorial. But then during early access already, there will be, a number of different tools that you can unlock. So later on, you'll get, throwing axe, you get trampoline, you even get a water slide, you get a grappling hook, and, all kinds of stuff. In addition to the basic, water grenade or water bottle, you also have like an EMP one. So every tool also has different things that you can upgrade to. So you, take the trampoline, for example, you can get a larger trampoline. So when you toss people from high up, they hopefully won't miss as often.
I saw plenty of people missing online.
Yeah. So yeah, you have, I think, 15 different tools, and
That's awesome.
each of them has its own set of upgrades.
And you mentioned classes earlier. I mean, are we talking 2 or 3? Is that what's kind of going to look like?
So there won't be strict classes. So the demos, we kind of predefine the classes for people, but in the actual game, you can unlock different loadouts. So different loadout slots, right? So you can, based on what you want to do individually, your own play style, or what you and your friends decide to do as a team, you can essentially equip different equipment for for a specific loadout, and that's kind of the role that you play. So, for example, if I equipped a lot of the trampoline, the jump pad type tool, then I will probably play a more support, outside catching people type role. Whereas someone can play load up with all the more direct firefighting tools. So there isn't strict role definition or specification, but people can use their own loadout to essentially,
which is awesome, because in a way, I mean, it allows you really to play the game however you want to. You're not stuck within kind of like how some games have this is your support, this is this. You can really customize it however you want. So that's really neat. The other thing that I noticed was that there's a lot of danger other than fire. So there's electricity, beams fall, barrels explode. Is that what we can expect throughout the entire game?
Yeah. So there, in addition to fire, there are different things that could explode. There are backdraft doors. There are, you can walk into a birthday party room where people accidentally pumped hydrogen instead of helium into the balloons. So the balloons will explode. There's barrels that can explode. So there are different things that can cause explosions. There are gases that you will need to vent in different ways. There's electricity, and sort of all the puzzly hazards that kind of are associated with those, and obviously this fire. So every level there's going to be a mix, and there's also grease fire, where you can't really put it out with water. So every level it's going to be a mix of different hazards. It's going to be, we'll play with layout and kind of obstructions and where your clients are located. So the levels will vary based on those variables.
Yeah, I got a kick out of watching one of the demos, and they broke in the door and the guy was on his cell phone, just not paying attention at all. And I was like, yeah, there's always one of those in every single house fire. Yeah.
In this world, in this alt reality, the clients are, let's just say they're very plugged into technology and social media and whatnot. So this is kind of they're plugged into the technology matrix, and this is the end result.
Don't sell yourself too short, because that's probably not far off from reality.
Yeah.
So with the game coming to Stadia, not a lot of developers have been able to kind of communicate. How has developing for Stadia been compared to PC?
It has its, obviously its set of constraints or things that we will need to develop for. And Stadia is, it's a really relatively new platform. Well, it's a very new platform. And so, they're still working on a lot of things and still working on, kind of the infrastructure and the whole, certification process. So, I mean, obviously we're early, so we kind of have to grow with the platform itself. And so there's, I think, a lot of things that are more particular to that. Generally, though, I think, and we use Unity. And so obviously, like when we started the support, Unity support for Stadia is also, kind of growing, developing, and evolving. So there's definitely some initial challenges just with a new platform. But I think overall, though, Stadia has been, it's been pretty good, I would say. And, the people, really the team at Google has been really, really helpful. So I think the experience has been really good overall.
So did Stadia approach you guys, or did you sign up through their like independent program going on?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, it's just us being at, shows, and, when last year when we, put out the first video of Embr and we were at different shows, it happens that, they saw Embr, and, we just started a dialogue, and things kind of evolved from there. So yeah, it's been cool. I mean, obviously, Stadia, I feel like with every platform, there's the initial learning curve, but they're obviously trying really hard, and it's kind of cool to be. Well, actually, the first, I guess, the first game in the early access program, which is pretty awesome. Yeah.
With that, I know it's early access, and the final launch will be kind of probably later, like 2021. But are you guys planning on using any of the features with Stadia, like when it comes to Stream Connect or any of their exclusive stuff?
Yeah, we have already integrated some of them, so people can expect some Stadia features support already in the game during early access. I mean, we'll have to see how we go and see if we can essentially add more where it makes sense. But yeah, generally, I think it's kind of good to have this early access period just to really iterate and, like, more importantly, just have people from both platforms give us feedback. Like, we obviously have a roadmap for what we want to do during early access as far as like content and just more like items and game modes and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it'll be awesome to have players give us ideas, and some of them, like during the prototyping period or during the alpha periods, like we've already implemented, which is cool. Like, we had off tangent for a second, but so we had some players and some of the YouTubers who played the game and said, hey, well, we failed, the house burned down, but we don't really see the house like burning down in like a dramatic way. And so we're like, yeah, you're right, that's awesome. So in the I guess in the release version, you'll see, like, if the house burns down, you definitely see something more dramatic than it is now. So stuff like that. Is it
possible really to put the fire out completely?
It's possible.
Okay.
It is possible. Okay. I think on some levels more so than others.
Right. How big of a team are you guys over at Muse?
We are 9 people split into 2 projects. And then we work with, so I mean, Embr obviously is the focus, and we're prototyping another project, kind of in the background. And we work with indie artists. We were working with an indie sound designer in a small dev team, just remotely. So that's kind of how we have been able to scale a bit, just by working with other indie, artists and developers.
So I guess the final question I have for you, Howard, is if you had to pick one feature about Embr that was the selling point that everybody should know about and shouldn't sleep on, what should they pay attention to with Embr?
Good question. I think tools, like, I guess I'll answer in a couple different ways. So there are a number of non-standard issued firefighting tools in the game. Some of which are like pretty interesting to play around with. One of which is the grappling hook. And another one we just put into the game is called the Slippery Slide. It's basically a water slide
Nice.
that you can have some really interesting rescue scenarios, right? I think for me, a lot of times the game it's designed, the controls are not, like Surgeon Sim or some of the other, physics-based simulators where like the control is the one that causes like unintended behavior and unintended consequences in humor. The controls, I would say, are fairly like, FPS standard, and they are meant to be more fluid. It is really more of these like things where, okay, you try to plan a thing and then you just miss it. That's where a lot of humor, I think, where a lot of fun derives from. So, I'll be like, oh man, trying really hard and, toss somebody bounce it off of a trampoline and then just miss. It's not meant to be funny, but it's kind of funny. Things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that I really enjoyed. Number one, your guys' trailer was fantastic. It really nailed the humor of the game. But then as I started to research it, every video that I watched, it felt like there was a new feature that popped up that I didn't know about. Like when I saw someone take an axe and knock down a door, I was like, oh, that's super cool. And then they used the axe to knock down the beams. And I was like, oh, this is really, really neat. And it on a surface level, a game like this could look pretty casual, but it seems like there's a lot of depth and a lot of expandability and customability that really, whether you're playing single player or multiplayer, kind of provides a different experience. And honestly, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I think that's totally what we're going for. I think in the beginning, the firefighting is a little bit more straightforward. The later levels, though, I think there's a little bit more planning. You may not be able to have the time to just carry everybody and make the trip to the rescue area every single time. So you might have to, drop your clients off at, some, what you designate as collection points or save points. You might have to like just get them out of the fire first, leave them out, outside in the balcony somewhere, do something else and come back. So in that sense, there's, as a game, later on, as the levels get a little bit more complex, there is a little bit more of a time management component to it, where you kind of have to plan a little bit or take some risks, so you don't have time. You might have to just like toss a client off of a balcony, onto a trampoline and, maybe directly into the rescue zone and hope that they make it. So.
Well, honestly, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this game very much. And Howard, I thank you for coming on. Everybody, Embr is going to be available in early access on May 21st for Steam and Google Stadia. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks again for checking out our channel. This whole coronavirus stuff going on right now is pretty crazy. But for those of you that are stuck at home, that aren't at school or aren't at work, and first time checking out the channel, welcome. My name's Bryant, and thank you so much for checking out our channel, and I hope whatever's going on in your world gets so much better.